So I'm very briefly, actually it's probably going to take forever, going to try to talk about my quadcopter situation. So right this moment, this isn't the whole subject. I was unable to get any satisfactory range from my little AIO transmitter from Banggood. It was working just fine, but what I did was initially I had soldered it to the flight controller and powered it from that, but the battery life was so unbelievably short on my batteries, which are mostly like these little, this is a 750 milliamp hour. This is probably the fanciest battery I have. My other batteries are just more generic. This is a 500. It doesn't run that well. I have some 600s that seem to run better than that 750. I do have a whole pack of very generic 750 milliamp hours that I've never opened and have never been charged. So what I'm hoping to do is to get pretty happy with my Sima X5 frame and FLF3 brushed 1S micro quad flight controller, and then I'll number these batteries and figure out if any of them are any good by trying to fly them and pick the good ones, and then I'll have a little bit of flight time where I can fly right around my house or at a nearby parking lot or an area park where normally drones wouldn't be okay, but because it's a toy quadcopter, there's actually, I've looked around and as far as I can tell, there's no laws that have anything to do with these. They don't count. They're not drones. So, that is my one project, and how I'm having this trouble where I can't suddenly get any range 3 feet, 4 feet away. And so what I'm hoping is that my batteries were not satisfactorily charged, and they're going to charge up, and then everything will work normal again. This is my transmitter. It's the standard run-of-the-mill $50 Fly Sky. This, thank you, Mom, for the gift card which I used to buy this, which wasn't what I wanted, but as advertised it was, is a great screen. But there's another version of this screen that has a DVR, and this one said it was a DVR, and it was not. And so I contacted Amazon in the complaints. I told them it was poorly advertised, but I was already running on the screen by the time they said, well, we'll send you a refund, and I didn't want to wait around. So, because a screen is probably a temporary enough situation, I invested early in a DVR, and then I wired it up to the output of the screen and power it with this little battery. And in the future, I'll probably put the DVR into a quadcopter the way that it's supposed to be. But for now, I'll just run it off the back of this screen. And that's how I FPV with my little quad here, and the star of my show, my very busted up Ishin Racer 250. So my Racer 250, this motor's a little sticky all of a sudden. Goes through tons of props. I go through so many props. These are Gemfan 5030s. They're fairly delicate. The props, people buy much stronger props, but the thing about it is I'm trying to practically approach quadcopter learning. Look, my antenna broke. Here's the rest of it. Still in there. So, the thing about it is I don't want to change the props, because this is like the stock props and this is like a stock setup. And my logic is that over time I will gain a much better understanding of props, such that first I will gain a pretty good feel for these 50-30s, even though I'll go through them like crazy because they just turn into hamburger. Then I got a bag of props, which somebody gave to me. Actually, I bought for 20 bucks a bunch of spare Racer 250 parts, and in there are some 3-bladed props and some 4-bladed props. And I figure once I have a pretty firm grasp on how these 50-30s perform under various conditions, for example, which battery I'm using and how the wind is going and all of these different things that will matter to the performance of the quadcopter, then I'll be able to put a different prop on there and I'll be able to much more easily assess the difference the prop makes. So if I put a 3-bladed prop on there, then my first impression should be right away that there's more power on the bottom end, and it will turn more quickly and it will accelerate from 0 more quickly. But I'm concerned that on the top end, so as the motors increase in speed and start getting into the higher speeds, that the 3-bladed props will not perform as well as these 2-bladed props. And these are 50-30s. Actually, the copter came with 50-40s because I bought it used, and they were using these on it. But all of them ship with 50-30s. So another thing I was going to do is buy a whole bunch of 50-40s and then run those for a while first before I switch to 3-blades. And those should do a similar thing. They should increase the bottom end, but probably lose the ability to spin up as high of RPMs, but hopefully make up for it by having a steeper angle of, pitch of blade, so then they would be able to reach higher speeds. The quadcopter should reach higher speeds at lower motor speeds. So more blades won't do that. More blades will just give it more, I guess torque is the wrong word to use, but it'll give it more thrust per rotation until the copter has reached a velocity where the propeller isn't really pushing that hard. Then the blade, having more blades, won't be increasing the thrust, because if the airfoil is moving smoothly through the air, then it won't barely be pushing, it'll just be lifting a very small amount. So when the copter is accelerating a lot, then the more blades will contribute. But a steeper blade, because it will still be pushing at those RPMs, it'll be pushing the air harder, then that should raise the speed, the top speed of the copter, maybe. But all of these things are like a feel, and your little bits of logic may not apply because there's friction and all kinds of stuff. So this over here is just an experiment. Actually, this is some of the spare parts that this guy hooked me up with for the Racer 250. This is the flight controller, and this is actually the receiver that he gave me along with that. And I'm not going to use that receiver over here. I'm just going to do the same thing I did over here, and I'm going to measure off some wire probably and cut it. I could solder this tip back on there. I could consider that, and then solder the shielding back together. And what a lot of work tiny coaxial is. It might be better just to measure and cut and then shove this excess in there a little bit, and it's probably okay for now. And then I'll save this tip for later, and maybe I will use it further on down the road. I know this is very long and nobody's really watching it but me. Anyways, that would be the main reason I would make it. This little journal entry. So this right here, copter, is purely experimental to see if I could use my old AR 2.0 frame, and it does fly. It's not that good. I never fly it because it would use the same batteries as my Racer 250, and I would just fly that because these are so fragile that I can't really I don't really think that I'll be able to have much of an FPV experience because I'll have to be so careful. And another thing too, it could be the PIDs, is it doesn't seem to last very long on a charge. But I've only been flying it on its own batteries, and its own batteries are not that good. They don't fly that for very long either. Which brings me to my batteries. So this is why I decided to record this little video log, is to talk about my batteries. So I have some old AR 2.0 batteries, one of which still kind of works. But it's only good for getting warmed up on the sticks. These are my 3 chargers. They're super budget. They're not what anybody will recommend in any forum. But they're charging my batteries and I'm flying, and so I'm happy. And here are my 4 batteries that are the working batteries. So this battery the guy gave to me brand new when he sold me the copter. And it's 20C 1750 3S. All of them are 3S. And it runs pretty good, especially for my skill level. So it doesn't work as hard, probably because 20C, but I probably don't really notice. And it outpowers this 20C, although this one lasts longer. This battery is driving me crazy. It's a 1.5 25C recommended Racer 250 size battery, but I don't know if the battery is jumpy in its voltage deliverance, or it's cutting the current. I don't know. Sometimes it's like the copter's gonna fall out of the sky. My reception behavior gets funny, but it's only during this battery that all these kind of weird jumpy things happen. This one I just got brand new, and the problem with this battery, it's a 35C 1550, is that it's more powerful than my other batteries. So my muscle memory gets worked up on these weaker batteries, and I'm much more susceptible to crashing on my powerful battery because I just give it too much juice. And then this battery was my best flight today. It's not that good. It runs for a long time. It's really great, but it doesn't deliver the juice to really perform like a racer. So it's great for cruising along the ground and finding little courses and stuff like that, and it can have some really good fun, but you definitely notice that it doesn't have the power of these other main batteries. So, and it takes a lot longer to charge, and since I only have 3 chargers, what I do is I charge, and then usually this one finishes first, and then I chunk that bad boy on there. And then if they get done, I'm just gonna go fly without this one in the evening. I went flying this morning. And that, I've got all these toys around it and everything, which I never fly anymore. I got all this different stuff. I got some parts that have never been put in yet, but those are kind of new. I might have to use this in advance because my Racer 250 one is breaking. But that's a rundown of my current flight status.